This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sustainable Library Certification Program introductory webinar. My name is Casey Conlin. I'm the Library Sustainability Coordinator for the Mid-Hudson Library System. And I'm excited today to be joined by another Sustainability Coordinator. It's not very often that I get to have other Sustainability Coordinators visit me on these webinar platforms, but Anne-Marie Gordon, who is the Sustainability Coordinator for the Suffolk Cooperative Library System and the Manager of the Sustainable Libraries Initiative and the Sustainable Library Certification Program, is joining us today to tell us about that program. This is a program that's open to all public libraries in New York State, so hopefully you can see some things in here that might be exciting for you and that you might want to do in your organization. The recent IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report that came out about 2 months ago, actually definitively said for the first time that climate change is happening and that it is a man-made occurrence, and it had some predictability for different changes that we're going to see in the world and different estimates of how likely it is to see those different things. If you're enjoying this rainy day, I didn't love it. I was actually off for most of today, and I said, shoot, it's raining, I can't go ride my bike. There's a very high likelihood that this kind of weather, this wet weather, is what we're going to see for our specific region in the United States and the world. Other areas, of course, are going to experience a lot more drought, heat that's unbearable, and lots of other different things that are going to make the world a different place. But there are things that we can do to make the world a better place in the future, and a better world for our kids, and a place that we can, maybe resembles where we live now, and something that might be more habitable. So I know a lot of times, it's tempting to think legislators, people who own big businesses, people who have the big companies, they really ought to do something to make the food chain more sustainable, how we get our foods, the manufacturing, the electricity and the power we get, all of these things need to be more sustainable. Somebody has to do something about this stuff. And you're right. Legislators and people who have serious power have to actually make incentives for people to do the right thing and disincentives for people to do the wrong thing. But the people who are responsible for how our library operates are a lot of the people who are on the call today. So of course, we have a lot of library directors here, and you don't operate in a vacuum, but you and the library board of trustees have a lot of say in how your library conducts your business and how much they support the community and how much they will contribute to a future that is better than the one we're looking at right now. So there's a couple different ways to figure out how we can make those things better. And when we talk about sustainability at the Mid-Hudson Library System or the New York Library Association or the American Library Association, we talk about the triple bottom line. So in the triple bottom line with sustainability, of course, we think about the environmental impact of the things we do at our library, but we also balance that with the social equity that we can impact when we do things at our library. So are we providing access to everybody? Is something we're doing on the environmental side, buying solar panels, is that going to have benefits to other people in the community and make for a more inclusive community, or maybe share wages with people who are underemployed? The third leg of the triple bottom line is economic feasibility. And so when we think about that, we think about, one, can we afford it, right? I'm sure we would all put in solar panels and all put in geothermal heat pumps and all the best stuff that we could to really reduce the carbon emissions of our organizations. But we have to think about how much money is actually available to us and how we spend that money in the right way to give the public that we serve the products that they need and the services that they need. We can also think about how we spend that money too. If there's local businesses and local people that we can support when we spend the money that's entrusted to us, that's going to make our community stronger. So the Sustainable Library Certification Program actually helps encode many of these decisions into our organizations, because what can happen often is sustainability is something that is really cool and one person, like a library director, is really into, but then when that person goes away or something happens, then it's all out the window and we're not recycling anymore, and we don't care who we buy stuff from, and we don't care who we serve or where we go out or anything like that. So the Sustainable Library Certification Program allows you to build these things into the DNA of your organization so that it will be able to continue and thrive and be a sustainable organization that can serve your community. It also allows you to sort of build a team too around these topics and work on these topics together with trustees and staff, so that it's not just you, the library director, doing it all on your own. The other thing that it does too is it connects you with a growing network of people who are doing this work. So for sustainability in the big picture, we're gonna have to figure out some new ways of doing things. The ways that we've been doing things for a long time aren't going to get us there. And so we're going to need smart people like librarians and library directors and the library directors in the Mid-Hudson library system to help us figure out the best way to provide library services that balance all of those triple bottom lines that we talked about. So we have a growing network, as I said. It's libraries in New York State at this point, but it's about to go national. And so you'll be plugged into a community of people that are working on these issues and benefiting from their expertise and their knowledge and the things that they find in this area. So without much further ado, I'm sorry for all the ado. I'm going to turn it over to Anne-Marie Gordon. As I said, she's the sustainability coordinator for the Suffolk Cooperative Library System, and she actually handles the Sustainable Library Certification Program. She administers the whole thing. Anne-Marie has a strong background in environmental and sustainability issues in her personal life and her professional life. And she is new to the Sustainable Library Certification Program, but she has been doing lots of really great things. And I'm looking forward to hearing her talk about the program today.
Thank you so much, Casey. That was a really good introduction, because what we do and why I'm here, and how I was drawn to this program, definitely is reflected in a lot of the things that that you mentioned. I'm gonna, as a way of like introducing myself, also, like as Casey mentioned, like I have both my personal and my professional life have really hit probably all three legs of the triple bottom line, between work in libraries, work in libraries for AmeriCorps, which is, you know, like a government national service, like the Domestic Peace Corps. I worked training librarians basically how to use computers, how to train their patrons and the staff, and we also worked with teachers for computer training. Way back when that was a new thing, when Google was in its infancy, really. So I also served as a library trustee for 10 years. So I think that situated me best for the role that I'm in now, because when I, you know, have to stress how important it is to have your policies reflect your values in your library, and as part of the certification process, I've been through that. I've been there on both sides of that now. So I understand how important it is to sort of get the buy-in of your board and your community on each thing. And an extra little fact is that I actually saw Rebecca Smith Aldridge talk at one of my trustee workshops. I think it was like 2011 or 12 that I attended. Could have been even earlier than that. But she gave a talk for the trustees of the Suffolk Cooperative Library System way back when, and I still remembered that. And when I was researching the Sustainable Libraries Initiative for my job interview, I like put that together. I knew I recognized that name and had to Google it to figure out why, and that's why. So that's interesting. I haven't even told Rebecca that yet, so now you guys know. So thank everyone for coming, for attending, to watch this. I'm excited to share with you some more details and a little more in depth about the certification program, and hopefully some like practical, how do we actually do that and what does it mean, ideas. So today I'll be talking about the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, the certification program. I'll briefly discuss the initiative itself, although I'm pretty sure everyone here is quite familiar with it. And as Casey mentioned, at any time, put a question in the chat. I don't need to hear myself ramble. I would love to actually direct what I'm saying to what all of you, what questions you, what are brought up from what I'm talking about. So I'll be talking about the specific benchmark categories that are part of the certification program, and I'll definitely have time to answer questions. So the first thing I wanted to do is to just start off with a little activity. So Casey already mentioned what the definition of sustainability is that we're using, but I would like to do a quiz, or not a quiz, but a word cloud, just to see if everyone could just briefly jot down for the Mentimeter, and I think I can present it here. If you can go in the quiz, and I hope I didn't close anybody out from scanning that QR code or entering the code, but I believe Casey already put it in the chat. But if you could get up to the quiz and just write down the first couple words that come to mind when you think of sustainability, so that I can get a better idea and you guys can get a better idea from each other what you see. So I'll give everyone a couple minutes. Oops. Is anyone in?
So if anybody clicked on the first link I shared, I apologize. It's menti.com, menti.com. That will get you there. Mentimeter.com is a different kind of portal in there. And then you can input the numbers there, and then you can start putting in your words.
Thanks for catching that, Casey. Oh, good. Okay, it is working. If you notice on your screen now, we can see that there have been some responses. So I'll give everyone a couple minutes. Okay, and then not sure if anyone is still mid putting in, but I see a bunch of answers here, which is pretty typical. I only market tested this activity with my teenagers, who were able to do it without making fun of me that much, which was great. Um, there's, as usual, like green came up. Any word that comes up and that's larger than the rest, that just means it was mentioned more than once. So they're weighted by size for this graphic. And I think one just popped back up again, which is great. So so lasting and green are the two things that came up the most, which is usually what you see. And again, talking about my job to other people, usually I have to stress, like, it's there's a huge environmental component, but there's more, but wait, there's more. So, and what we usually see is that, there's conservation, there's energy conservation, environmentally friendly, the environment, recycling. I love that I'm seeing careful, vital, and affordable come in here, which is great. Saving could be either any of those components, is saving resources or saving energy or saving money. So again, resources are here. So we have that all. All of these things are definitely contained within how we define and what the triple bottom line definition of sustainability is. So I'm gonna close that screen and move on. So as Casey mentioned, what the definition that we use for the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, but then also embedded in the ALA resolution to adopt sustainability as a core value of librarianship, is the triple E definition. You may also see, it's kind of a concept that was borrowed from the business world. So sometimes you'll also see it listed as a triple P bottom line, which was people, planet, and profit. And then it's very similar to like what we consider with triple E, so the environment, economics, and social equity. And what we use this definition of sustainability is to really ground our decision making in the library with consideration for all three of these principles, and often at the same time. And often what's best for the environment will also be a good economic decision and promote social equity in the community too. But sometimes we have to tweak things a little bit from what we want to do if it's hitting different parts of our community differently, or if it's not fiscally possible, we may have to alter the way we're thinking to fit all of those. As we mentioned, like a three-legged stool. So all three legs of this are equally important and need like our focus, and if possible, simultaneously. What I'd like to talk about is how these are applied in libraries. So for the environmental component, libraries often, they really were a forerunner of this because they've always said, hey, we'll just purchase one copy of this for the community and share it. So it's really kind of like part of our DNA in libraries that we offer things to borrow so that we don't need to create as many of any product. And especially when it's something that you'll be using once, often we'll only read a book once. So we really live this sort of idea of a sharing economy and how we can have only what we need for the community, not each person fending for themselves. In terms of economics, this one of the things that we often cite with this is just to broadcast what an excellent return on investment libraries are. For every dollar that a community member pays in taxes, you receive on average about $4 in library services. We help it, by sheer matter of scale, by being able to purchase things that we share throughout the community, we can help communities expand what information and technology is available to them. And we, at a very low cost, can really indulge the curiosity of our patrons, but also open doors and expand thoughts and discover new ideas, and all really economically, because we don't have to purchase those materials for each person. We can have shared things for our whole community. And then in terms of social equity and from a library standpoint, it's embedded, these are concepts that are embedded in the American Library Association's Bill of Rights. There's, that materials and information are available for all persons equally in a community, that there's representation of all points of view, and that there's a right to use for all of our communities. So the sustainability of the library itself and using this triple bottom line definition is really tied in with the sustainability of the whole community. We concentrate on providing these resources for all, and we really mean it when we say that. And how we consider these definitions are really how we ground like the certification program going forward. So are there any questions at this point? Okay, so what I have is another activity for us. And again, I apologize. As Casey pointed out, the link, that it should be menti.com, not Mentimeter, but the same code will get you to the next question. But I have to bear with me for just a moment while I figure out how to do that. So if you go into the quiz, I should be able to present the next question. I know it says answer fast to get more points. It also gave me a warning that the quiz will not have a winner. And these are just a couple questions for me to see, or for us all to see visually where we're coming from, what types of libraries we're representing here. So let's see if anyone, oh, there we go. Thank you, everyone. So not shockingly, for the Mid-Hudson library system, we're seeing a mix of rural and suburban libraries, which is definitely, these are considerations, especially with the rural setting. You're going to have different needs and different goals when you think of sustainability, maybe than a more urban library will have. So let me see if I can get the next question coming up. So stay on the Mentimeter for a second. And now I should have just pushed through another question. And the next question is just to also gauge what is the size of your library. So usually it's predictable based on rural or urban, but not always. This one is even more split than the previous quiz, which is it's very, very small libraries are what we're considering. And just for, to ground like what my experience has been, definitely the library that I was on the trustee board for was very small. Suffolk County has a very, and I'm not sure if that's just the representation that I'm seeing here in this webinar, or if it's, the Mid-Hudson library system in general, if this reflects that. But, and feel free to answer that question in the chat if you want. But the library that I was on the trustee for it was definitely under the small category. So I have some familiarity, and especially as treasurer, of the money that comes in and out and how every dollar is spent in a library of that size. So thank you everyone for participating. And that ties in, to tie in like why I'm asking those questions is because that is something that has been considered when the Sustainable Library Certification Program was developed, because we're not looking at this program to, create 1,000 cookie cutter libraries. You're all starting from a different place. And this program acknowledges that not every library is going to have the same resources. Not every library is going to have the same type of property. Some don't own their spaces. Some are in historic districts or historic buildings, and that needs to be factored in. So the location and scale or type even of your library are going to be important factors in how you think and act sustainably. As we're talking about the certification program, again, like this is not a one size fits all program. It's designed with flexibility, and it'll be molded to your library's budget, your staff's needs and your community's needs, and just the goals that you have, the goals that your community has. It's flexible enough to accommodate for both size and scale and location. And there's also within the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, just in case you're not ready to join immediately to the certification program, like after this talk, there's also a new option that we've created this year, which was just to become a member without engaging in the certification program immediately. And this is a good option because you'll have access to the extra resources that we've been building up on the website, but may give you like some more resources, some more sort of ammunition to bring to your staff, your administration, or your library board before you commit to doing the whole process. So any questions about membership only, definitely, you can ask me either, now or anytime via email. So as we talk about the Sustainable Library Certification Program, we're going to talk about the benefits to your library, the benefits to your community, and then give you sort of a more practical overview of what's expected and how you do it, and actually talk a little bit about the process, like how it actually goes through and walk you through that. So it's designed to be a rigorous program. It should mean something to have gone through the process of certification. As I mentioned, it's also designed to be flexible so that we can account for libraries of different sizes and locations. Just to give you an idea, there's about, on our benchmarking list, the sort of list of action items that we have, there's about 175 different action items. But each library that completes the program will complete about 75% of these. There are a mix of required and recommended actions. So there's some things that we feel are so important for each category that they need to be done. But then there's also recommended actions where you'll pick and choose which ones are best for you and your community. So each program, each Sustainable Library Certification Program will look slightly different from another library's. We expect that and anticipate that and really even encourage that, because what we're looking for is finding new resources through everybody and pooling those resources together to find innovative ways to offer sustainability to our communities and to share that with each other. So it should be different. It shouldn't all be the same. So just a little bit about the program. We expect it to take about 1 to 2 years to complete. There is no deadline for this. If you paid up to do the certification, we just ask that you continue to pay for an annual membership as long as you're, I mean, we hope that you'll continue to be a member forever, but we definitely require that you be a member in order to complete the certification. But you're not repaying for certification if you don't complete it in a certain time. That is no longer our policy. You really have the time that you need and the flexibility to accomplish to get the best out of the program that you can do. And then the pricing for both of those are on our website, and it's based on the budget of your library. So what's also important in the program itself is that it's meant to be reflective. And we've also built that into the program. When you look at things and learning to look at all of your library practices and your policies through the lens of the triple bottom line, it's going to make you think differently about the decisions you make, like the big decisions and the small decisions. So there's reflection questions in each category that you'll go through where you'll tell us about how completing these actions changed the way your library operates, and then also either like how those changes benefited the library or benefited the community along the way. There's no right answers in the certification process. Like, it's not a multiple choice, it's not a quiz. It's designed to engage you and to make you think. There's no one will have the exact same answers. There's room to tell us about how the process led you to do something, and how it made you rethink about what you're going to do in the future. And we generally want to hear all about it. What has worked for you, what didn't work, what is frustrating, what you had to change midway because you thought it would work and it didn't. Each action item in each section, like, this is where the reflection comes in. This is where the community that we have of members who are completing or have completed their certification program comes in, because that is important to share, and important to share what has worked with each other. Part of the benefit of having a program is that it brings you to it just brings you to a whole community of library leaders who are doing and working on the same thing as you are. So let's talk about the benefits, looking specifically at the benefits to your library and to your community. One of the biggest benefits to your library is for staff engagement, to have a project to work on together. I know in terms of the school librarianship program, especially, just our certification recipient in that program just said she couldn't believe like how well it worked as far as professional development. It's sort of like having a new task to breathe sort of new life into what you do and where you are. And I do believe that the public librarian certification program is very similar, where it gives something for the staff to come together and engage in. The process requires a lot of brainstorming for ideas and solutions. Again, like I said, we're looking for resources for innovation, or for sharing someone else's resource, but using it in your own way, or how that worked in your community. There's lots of room for creativity, and definitely can benefit from the staff working together. And I think that's been something that's been talked about a lot at our member meetups, where we talk about what ways we have to draw in other staff members or reluctant staff members. A lot of the things that have been mentioned have been just to start small, and make it not, sometimes it doesn't work to force people to do this. Another good thing is, Roger here is always like, I don't care what you do at home, but here you're going to use the air dryer in the bathroom, So, frame it however you need to encourage engagement and appreciate the small changes that are made in each, department or by each staff member, especially the reluctant staff. Also, just a benefit, obvious, and this was on our definition, is energy savings. Like, when you start looking into and changing and making things more energy efficient, there's often cost savings. Often the cost savings may be enough to pay for the certification program on its own. So, to think of this, like, where this can save you, this can actually save your library money. Working through the action should change the way you think about things. Some solutions will be really easy. There's a lot of things that are on those 175 actions that your library is already doing. So by all means, you're not punished by having sustainable policies already in place or sustainable actions already in place. We just want to know about it. So tell us, that will count towards your certification. Another benefit to doing this program is that this is a structured path forward. The answers aren't spelled out for you, but the actions will gradually lead you to change the way your institution operates. And you're not on your own through this. Again, there's both the community of other members, but then also you'll be paired with a mentor who will guide you through the process. And as someone who has already done the process and in some cases helped to write the actual actions themselves, and they're not going to give you answers, but they're going to help keep you motivated and also brainstorm solutions for these questions. But having a path forward means you don't have to forage for yourself. There's already, you can benefit from all the thought that Rebecca Smith-Aldridge, that Matt Bollerman have already put into this program. And, go let the structure carry you through, let the program carry you through to change the way you think without having to try to figure that out on your own. We do, again, with the community aspect, your library will benefit from the resource sharing, from the networking, even from the commiseration with other libraries who are trying to get this accomplished. And there's sure to be some of that. There's a focus to belonging to a community of practice. We have members who have who continue to come to every meetup that we have, even long after they've been certified, a year after they've been certified, just to stay involved, to see what other libraries are doing, to share their resources. And we're really proud of that like continued engagement. And we hope to, keep people involved as long as they're comfortable. So we hope that the process does not end with certification, and we hope it inspires you to continue to find better ways going forward.
Anne-Marie, can I ask, in terms of like building a team, is there a recommended number of people or, an ideal, group of roles to put on a team when you're thinking about that?
Because it really changes. Like I've seen teams that are 15 people at a very large library, and I've seen teams that are 2 people, and all within my library system. Judging by the size of these libraries, I would say there's no team too small, really, because it really, there are a couple people who are working with a board member, the library director and the board member. There's a lot of the larger libraries. I'm thinking of Janet down here at the South Huntington Library, who just like stepped back and said, this isn't, this is great, but you guys are going to do this. I'm already the director, and I tell you what to do so often. I want to see what you guys come up with this, because she has enough staff involvement that she can do that. So there's no like recommended size, but it is important to just not feel like you're on your own. And especially for the small library, I just feel like it's so beneficial to be part of the certification program community, and to have peers that are going through the same thing, even if they're not at your library, but at other libraries, to brainstorm with and help along the way. So does that satisfy that question?
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you.
So the last part about benefits to the library that I have is just like that this is a chance to revisit, to amend, to educate staff about library policies and the library's mission, or a strategic plan. One of the examples that I thought of when I was talking about this is how we had a library who was part of the certification process. One of the first sections, you're asked to have your staff complete a survey. And there was a lot of engagement from the staff. Like a lot of people indicated that they would want to serve on a sustainability team. But there was a really lack of knowledge. Like I think one of the questions was like, is it written into your library policy? Is there sustainability written into any library policies? And there were a lot of answers that were just like, I don't know, you know? So it's really, this is kind of, you know, a chance for these policies and the mission of your library to just be promoted within your library, so that the staff are more familiar with why you do the things you do and what's in place to guide you, um, both right now and going forward. So let me take a quick drink. Any questions? So as far as benefiting your community, again, like the resiliency of your library and your community are really tied in together. So I can't stress that enough. And that when we're thinking about how, you know, how to operate with this program and why you would want to do this, it's important to consider that this is something that we're looking at to create a strong connection and strong partnerships between the library and the community and your patrons. So we all gain when the community is stronger. And part of our program is it's structured in a way that we try to foster connections between nonprofits in your area, government agencies, and also small businesses and for-profit companies that may also share similar beliefs. So there's a potential to sort of build on the community investment and libraries finding innovative ways to work together, and innovative ways to reach parts of the community that have been historically underserved. Um, Also, the knowledge that you're gaining, the programming that you're doing will reach out into the community to educate and inform about these important issues of climate change, of inequities. And also, this will be an opportunity to work together as part of the solution to present practical approaches and solutions from your library. So, you know, we hope that this is an opportunity for a library to take on a leadership role in your community and spread the word, you know, sometimes explicitly, but also sometimes subtly in just, you know, how we operate, to bring the community in on this venture and take them along for the ride, if that's it, you know, if that works for your community, and if not, to just, you know, subtly keep changing and, you know, and let people notice the cost savings, or the expanded resources or the library pop-up programs all around, you know, that sort of thing. It's a good opportunity, working through this program, to sort of gauge what needs of the communities are there, what are not being met, to reach out to try to find these innovative solutions. You may find yourself in unexpected places, and we definitely encourage that. And above all, just as I mentioned, like sharing your resources, offering programs about environmental sustainability, offering programs on different topics, and celebrating the diversity of our communities. Like, these are all things that can help strengthen the bonds that are there. So, and just a focus also on the resiliency of the community is super important. So I'm going to move on and talk about the actual categories that we'll be working through in the program. So each section, as I think I mentioned before, each section has a number of required actions to take. It's a different number for each section. And then there's an additional section where there'll be, you know, 5 or 6 actions that are recommended, and you're required to do 4 of them or something. And that's really where you get to pick and choose your own adventure, depending on what works for your library, what works for your community, what's a good fit, what your staff is capable of, what your budget is capable of. So the program works, the categories are focused on, you know, both the environmental, there's, you know, quite a few that focus on the environment, but then there's also the social equity and the economic considerations in there. Most of it is designed for you to pick and choose what works best for you in your library. So most of these categories, you know, the first thing you'll want to do is go through and see what you can immediately already check off, because you already have recycling bins or you already have a bike rack accessible to your staff and patrons. So, you know, there's almost no one that I've talked to that hasn't had anything that they could check off right away. And the only thing that we ask is that you do the getting started category sort of in order. This is where you're going to focus on letting the staff, the administration, and your board of trustees know what you're doing or proposing to do and what you're working towards. This is where there are some basic policy updates and also an energy audit and a waste audit, which looks really fun. Can't wait to do that on our own. So it generally is set up, that first category, and doing it in order is set up to orientate all the stakeholders about the process and sets the foundation for progressing through the program. So I'll just talk a little bit about like some examples in each category. The outdoor spaces includes actions and assessments for outdoor spaces, managing like what plants you have and where, forming plans for stormwater runoff or strategic plantings, both to like absorb water or drought tolerance, depending on where they are. So again, you'll notice the word assessment, and this comes up several times. There's no right answers on there, and we don't expect all these answers to be perfect. Like, I mean, I know that there's some stress looking at the energy audit or waste audit, like, oh my goodness, it's meant to inform you. And this whole process is meant to be a foundation for how you move forward. So we don't expect everything to start out perfectly. You may do a site assessment and realize that there's ways that you can do. There may be things that you can't do right away. But within these action items, you can let us know what your plans are. And your mentor and the evaluation committee will let say, okay, that sounds good, or maybe you could do that right now, or something like that. Like, there's room for feedback and there's room for submitting what your plans are also. Indoor spaces focuses on like having an air quality plan and a close look at the cleaning products and that sort of thing that you're using. There's also, I think, one of the items is even like providing access to fresh fruits and vegetables, which one example that we had is that a library that I was on a trustee for would purchase a local CSA share from a local farm that was right, half mile away from them. They'd purchase a share and divide up the vegetables every week by who wanted them on the staff, just to promote eating local, eating healthy, and really eating things that are grown right around the corner from where they work. So transportation is sort of, you'll be asked to calculate, figure out how far everyone is commuting. Obviously, again, there's no right answers, and it's okay, because if you're in a rural area, you may be driving really far to get to work, and we understand that. We're asking you to take a look at that. So it's, you may be able to promote transportation programs. There's options for providing electric vehicle charging stations, as I mentioned, bike racks, bike repair stations, and things like that. Moving on to energy, you'll be asked to calculate your energy use, take a look at your building's lighting and thermostats and appliances. One of the examples here too is like, if you can't, as Casey mentioned, like not everybody can afford to do solar panels, but there are other options too, which would be looking into whether you have a choice to buy into solar power generation through your power supplier. There's also local microgrids that you can purchase power from or invest in. So there's ways to get around that. But again, that's not something that's required. That would be something that you would decide to opt for that action. There's a lot of different items available to check off in that category. We've had libraries of all sizes become certified also. In terms of water, again, an assessment of water use, a look at irrigation and staff education. Water smart landscaping is something that's in there, and just another way to look at your outdoor landscape in terms of water usage. Materials, this is sometimes some things are really easy in this, but also looking at everything that you purchase, all the materials, in terms of their whole life cycle. Like, are you purchasing too many? think one of the options is to just do an inventory of how many supplies you have hanging around, which can be really informative, and also let you see like, okay, maybe we do need to either like restrict ourselves or try to find a better option or repurpose some of these things because they're taking up a lot of space that we could have things that we use more frequently. There's, options in there like purchasing, like offsetting your paper use, tree planting programs, paper recycling, and there's, recycling opportunities for patrons, for your staff. There's, it seems like more and more coming about every day that I'm hearing about. I think one library down here has it like Bic Pens offers a recycling program where you can just put up a box and they'll recycle any kind of pen, as far as I know. So they were doing that for their staff, but then offered it to their patrons as well because it didn't take up a lot of space and was something that has generated more interest. And that's that pretty much like is the environmental based categories. And then working on social equity is collective impact and social cohesion. And collective impact is, really focuses on civic engagement, on creating a dialogue with your community to find new ways to reach them, find new ways to provide resources, and also like creating new local partnerships and expanding access. An example of something that was worked on in this category is really the library here, the Patchogue Medford Library, has worked with their local government for years to expand access to government services to the underserved communities. And the effort really has reached in both directions because they really worked hard to reach their recent immigrant populations, and then they really reached hard to make connections with the government and to bring those two groups together, and it's really paid off for them. They have a very prominent role in both the government, the local government, but also are a trusted source of information from their local immigrant communities. So also social cohesion. It's really sort of activating your commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion in all different ways, making connections that'll broaden the community. And this can be seen, like some of the things that you'll be doing to demonstrate this is just making sure that that's clear in your mission statement, in the Board of Trustees diversity, like how you advertise for open opportunities on your Board of Trustees, what networks you're working in and how you can expand that to different parts of your community and beyond just your current library users. An example of something that fell into this category from another library was just realizing that there was that there were expanding where they offered outreach programs, and especially in COVID, a lot of outdoor programs have happened. Libraries that have been under construction have had to close their doors, but then did pop-ups all over their community and found themselves reaching community members that they had not reached before just because they moved around where they offered their services. So things like that are sort of part of working towards other goals can also work towards this program as well. Resilience planning, again, as we're in September is, I think, National Preparedness Month. So there's lots of programs going on, and those will also satisfy things in this category. If you have Red Cross disaster training or any kind of the government agencies preparation classes that are offered, programming would fall under here. Libraries are in a place to not only provide information to their community, but to also be that place of refuge should there be a disaster, and having your community know that they can turn to you and what you can do is great in advance of that actual need. So also the financial sustainability. This category just has you take a close look at your financial position and financial planning. There's a few actions in there. Some examples are just to try to give your staff access to health insurance and retirement benefits. And one of the examples is just that's not required, but something to make you think is like comparing the starting salary at your library with the average starting salary of a teacher in your area and seeing where you compare. It's not always possible. This isn't a required action to solve that, but even if that gets you to thinking about how you could plan, or whether or not that's something that you plan on in the future, could be something that would satisfy the action item in that category. So the last one is to take a look at your collections. And again, this is making sure that you consider that you have items, resources and information available for your community about sustainability, about resilience for them, and then also that your collections are inclusive, that it reflects the community that you serve, maybe even broadens what's available and what ideas are available, making sure that all of these things are demonstrated, all of these tenets and the triple bottom line is demonstrated in your collections and through consideration of the whole life cycle of the materials that you're bringing in. So, and some of that too is like just limiting or weeding, weeding as much as you need to, and making sure that you are using your space in a way that is what the community needs and what the staff needs too. So, some examples of things to satisfy actions in here would be shelves on casters, so that it's a flexible workspace, so that you can move shelves out of the way when you need to create more space for programming. And there's also, I think, more assessments, just taking time to assess your collection for inclusion is one of the items in here. And again, it's not expected to be perfect. We're just looking for you to think about where you are and where you want to be, and what plans you have to get there. So the more practical focus of what the process actually looks like, I think hopefully I've mentioned enough. Like, there is built-in flexibility here. This program should be able to bend to where you need it to. We pride ourselves on it being achievable. It is rigorous but achievable for libraries of all sizes. Your connection with your mentor, who will guide you through this process, is very important. And then also it should enhance your relationship with the community. And also you have the community of other members going through this, who you can look to for resources. We have the listserv. We have resources being added to the website continually. And there's, monthly meetups and certification celebrations, like just, ways to connect with other people who are like-minded, and going through this to also remind you that you're not the only one. You don't have to solve the climate crisis on your own. You have more people. There are other people who are working on this too, and that all our small actions can build together collectively to make an impact. And so, like I mentioned, your mentor is there for you. And then I'm also here as the first full-time staff member for the Sustainable Libraries Initiative. So I'm here to answer questions. I'm here to, if you got locked out of the website, or just have questions about where to find a resource, and especially if a link is broken on the website, I'm here. So there's resources on the website are the certification presentations from other libraries who have completed it. When you do the certification program, you'll be asked to create a final presentation, which is just a slideshow that highlights some of the things that you've done. So please take lots of pictures and provide some documentation, both on the website action form, which is, a little screenshot of that here, but also, for your final presentation, you'll want some pictures of your library programs, of your displays, or of your recycle bins. I have a whole catalog of pictures of compost bins at libraries that I'm actually really proud of. So no picture is too mundane to submit. I enjoy them and enjoy sharing them with other members to help them through. We used to partner with an organization called the Green Business Partnership, and that was the satisfaction and environmental portion. So once you are a member or a certification program member, you'll also have access to see all of the Green Business Partnership presentations that were made. And if there's any libraries here who have gone through that process and created a final presentation, that can just be amended for the Sustainable Library Certification final presentation as well. So I've talked a lot. I would love to open the floor for questions or comments, or anything that anyone has to say.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. I was curious, what's involved in a waste audit? How do some of the libraries do that you've gone through this with?
So I think there's some flexibility with how in-depth that is, but I know even at the Suffolk Cooperative Library System, they actually toured the facility where the waste is, like the contractor who takes care of the waste, because they say they automatically, like they do the recycling for us. So they were like, yeah, let me see it. But yeah, we'll be actually, that's one of our next plans, is to make a video of a waste audit being performed. But a lot of that is just collecting all of your waste from the day, getting a big tarp and analyzing it. There are instructions on the website where you'll, identify, how much of this is non-recyclable plastic, how much of this originated in the library or was brought in staff, I believe. But yeah, I think generally it's like looking at a day of waste from the library.
And I guess that's where that flexibility comes in as super important too, because what's recyclable down by you might be different up by us, based on our county regulations and contracts and things like that.
Correct. Can you recycle glass up there?
Oh yeah, all the time. It's
We
great.
cannot. We
Yeah.
can transport them ourselves to our landfill, where they'll be ground up and used as substrate.
Wow.
So yeah, you're right,
Um,
local decisions there.
yeah. Are there any other kind of cool things that you've been really excited about that you've seen libraries do as part of their SLCP going through it?
Yeah, like just there were two things, in the Longwood Library. I think they had a high schooler who came in to do research, and it uncovered this whole, I think it was like a grave, and it was someone who needed to be honored, but it was a whole, I think, basically a story of a whole African American community that was founded right and within their district. So they had a high schooler come in and do research on that, and it really brought in a lot of just like knowledge that like no one had considered. Like, oh, this is like, when we say this is historically Black community, like we mean, like before most of these other white families were here. And that just was, not necessarily like, I think that had started, right around the same time that they were doing this program, but I think it just like this helped them, it just helped them like frame it within like, oh right, this is what we mean, when we say like both social equity but community partnerships. This is what it can bring in when we open ourselves up to all the facets of our community.
Wow, that is cool. And that's really
And then I
interesting.
think, yeah, in that same library too, they had a one of the drivers for who was picking up the food that was donated there also picked up the blankets that the teens created and just like took it upon themselves to drop it off to like basically an unhoused person's camp that is, again, like around the corner from their library. But it just kind of fostered all of this engagement in all these different ways, um, just from one act of kindness leading to another.
Oh wow. Are there any considerations or any workarounds you've seen, or any I guess just considerations around COVID and the fluctuating world that we live in amid COVID?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the whole program was just getting off, when COVID happened. So I almost feel like the whole program is almost, has almost existed all in a time of COVID. it's hard. I know Lisa from the Lindenhurst Library was just like, and all those reusable cutlery that we have, we cannot, also they're not serving food in library programs as often anymore. But sometimes now, um, there's just a more of a trend, all the disposable gloves and masks. So COVID hasn't gone well for some things, but I will say definitely like in terms of focusing on social equity and that sort of thing, that's been a big, summer of 2020 definitely put that, I think, on everyone's radar too. Um, and also, that every storm season is really bringing about this climate change that we're already living in. Um, but yeah, COVID has both made it hard and made it easy. Not easy, but made it hard, but hasn't completely prevented everyone. But I think there's still, there's some libraries that are signed up that I still haven't like. I know they're just right like on this like roller coaster of like we're open, we're not open, we're wearing masks, we're not wearing masks. Um, who are not, are just so busy adjusting to the day-to-day necessities that haven't had time for this. We're all in kind of different spaces. I think a lot of people are now opening back up and realizing that this is a good chance to embed some of this thinking in how they do things going forward. Like, okay, this is my fresh start, So I'm seeing a lot of momentum from libraries just in this past month, which I don't know if it's just because like finally the word is out that I'm here, or if it's just also like this like okay, I think we're finally ready to embark on this process. But it's not universal, but there's definitely kind of a building momentum. I'm seeing libraries who seem like they're ready to start this and ready to give it a little extra energy now that they're not focusing so much energy on the constant cycle of reacting to the latest COVID threat.
All right. I know we have a lot of library directors on the call right now, and I'm wondering, since you do have experience as a library trustee, would you mind putting on your library trustee glasses and telling me what you think of this program from the library trustee point of view? Are there any parts of it that really speak to you as a trustee that are exciting?
I
Former
mean,
trustee.
the policy for sure. Like I spent a lot of time talking about the wording of policies at the library. I think one of the things that has really interested me also has been just some of the engagement that I've seen of the library trustees who are actually assisting and working through this process and very involved in it. And looking at this like from where I was with like literally babies when I was a trustee, I know I couldn't have given it what I needed. I wouldn't have been there to help the library do the certification program, but I'm really, really like inspired by the engagement that I'm seeing um, from some other trustees who've taken it on to like try to do some of the work. Um, but yeah, I mean, just as a trustee, I think the parts of the program that most resonate with me is the policy and just the knowing that that is where this program will live on once if this is the director's idea and they're driving the momentum those policies will live on after they retire. When someone new comes in, it'll be built in, and that's really like getting that right and embedding that in the culture of your library is really important.
All right. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
Just thank you in general, everyone, for sticking around this long. I hope everyone's still awake. Thank you, Emily. We are, I mean, as I said, like I think, I've oh, all right. You know what? Let me what I can do is just share my screen on the cost page. So the cost depends on the budget of your library. let me just get back to the part of the website. So here we are on our home page. And if you follow the link to join, there's a tab for pricing. So by the budget, the cost of the certification for a library up to $1 million, and just, you know, from doing my quick survey questions, so probably for most of you, it'll be $400. And then that the certification cost includes that your first year of membership is included in that cost. So then going forward, it's $100 a year to become a member. And if you did choose to become a member first, that would be fine. You would have access to resources, but not to the actual dashboard. And I can actually, since we have time, I can show you just a little bit of like how you actually work with the interface. So each section expands when you click on it, and then that's where you'll see that you have a list of required actions, and then also recommended actions, and it'll tell you how many of those you're expected to fulfill for each category. And then each, when you click on each item, you've probably noticed that there are different colors depending on what state they're in. If they've been, if they're in progress, you can change things to in progress or submitted if you finish, but you can always highlight things as in progress and come back to them later. Each one has a space, and this is where I say, tell us more, tell us what you're doing. So this is where you'll write about us, where you'll tell us what you're doing, what you hope to do. And then once you have something in there, you can also add files, add lots of pictures, and then you'll be able to save it either as submitted or in progress. And there's some things that will require you to upload an item, and a lot of things that it's a voluntary thing. So as you start submitting things, also you'll see this toolbar like show you your status. Your status bar will increase as things are submitted, and each section will also give you a readout of how many things in that section are complete. So you can see if I change this one. So I've made a note, we are working on it, it's in progress, so I can go back and edit that at any time. I can add more information and then change that to submitted. And it's telling me I need to upload a file in order to do that. So I will upload a random file. And then you can see it's now changed colors again. And when I go back and open that section, it's already 9% complete, and I've done one thing. So I think the website is the interface is very well laid out to both like let you know how you're doing and give you some feedback about where you are in the process, which I find really helpful to work on. Any other questions, comments? Thanks, Johanna.
All right, so I'll just remind everybody they can use the chat. They can send stuff right to Anne-Marie, or they can share with everybody to ask a question. You also have the power to unmute. You can unmute yourself and ask a question or make a comment if you like. We will share out the slides from the presentation, as well as a couple of helpful links and Anne-Marie's contact info and the recording. So you can look forward to that.
Yep, and I'll probably plan to put the recording on the website also so that everyone can see this, and I might never be able to watch it myself.
All right, well, if there's no other questions, I think, can we wrap it up, Anne-Marie? Is that good?
I'm good, yeah.
All right, well, I appreciate you coming out and sharing this information with us, and I hope we have some folks who are excited about the program and some folks who can sign up. I do think this will make your community and your library stronger, and I think it's a really great program. As Anne-Marie said, Rebecca has been working on it for a couple of years. This is something I helped co-create as well. As another another couple of library directors in the Mid-Hudson library system and in New York State. So yeah, so we got some recommendations here. What's up here, Anne-Marie? We got a newsletter?
All right, so this is definitely, if you're not currently signed up for our newsletter, I'm glad I had a slide because I would have forgotten. Please sign up. So the link maybe will be on the list of links provided. I might even be able to get that in the chat really quick. But also the online meetups, even if you're not a member yet, by all means, you can. All right, let me get the newsletter link copied. But by all means, even if you're just interested, you're still allowed to come to the member meetups. So join us. I think the next one is October 7th. So we'd love to see some of you there. It's a good chance to, ask questions, and really just see the dialogue and the collegiality that we have. They've been a fun part of my job. I just facilitate and sit back and just let it happen pretty much, or answer website questions, which is fine. And poke around the website. There's, I'm putting up more stuff every day, every week. So that is somewhere to go to find out more information. And as I said, just look through the presentations of libraries that have already been certified, because that gives you just a really good idea of what has actually been accomplished by other libraries. So, thank you, Casey. Forgot about that, the actual web address.
We'll make sure everybody gets all the links in the follow-up email as well, so people can explore it on their own time too.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you again, Anne-Marie, and thanks for everybody who came out today. Have a good day, and I hope you're able to sign up for this program, or at least join the community and start talking about sustainability of the library a little bit more.
Absolutely. Thank you, Casey, so much for having me and inviting me here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you both.
All right. Thank you, Annalee.